Daf Yomi, Tractate Bava Metzia, page 100b, top of the page with the words Bebeis Shomin Lo, Bebeis Shomin Lo, Beside Ein Shomin Lo. We were coming from the previous daf that it was taught in a brisa, according to both Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai. According to both Beit Hillel and Beit Shammai, the court listens to him. This is in the okay. Basically, it's talking about what is it talking about actually? Someone who entered someone's ruin and built it up using his own materials, but without the landowner's permission. So then there's a whole discussion there. So basically, we're on the top of 101b, and it says, in the case of a house, the court listens to him, but in the case of a field, the court does not listen to him. 101b. The Gemara asks, in the case of a field, what is the reason that the court does not listen to him? It is due to the fact that the desire to promote the settling of Eretz Yisrael, it is inappropriate to uproot trees. There are those who say that it is for a different reason. It is due to the weakening of the land already caused by the tree roots, as it made the land unsuitable for other uses. Therefore, the owner of the trees may not just take them and leave the land in its worsened condition. The Gemara asks, what is the practical difference between these reasons? The practical difference between them is whether outside of Eretz Yisrael, the one who planted the trees may uproot them. Okay, and that is the end of that. New Mishnah. Hamaskir beis lachavero b'yamos hageshamim. Okay, in the case of one who rents out a house in a town to another in the rainy season, the owner cannot evict the renter from the house from the festival of Sukkot until Passover. If the rental was in the summer, he must give 30 days notice before he can evict him. And for a house located in the cities, both in the summer and in the rainy season, he must give 12 months' notice. And for shops that he rented out, both in towns and cities, he must give 12 months' notice. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel says, for a baker's shop or for a dyer's shop, one must give 3 years' notice. Whoa. 3-day notice, 30-day notice, 3-year notice. Wow. Gemara, the Talmud says, the Gemara asks, what is different about the rainy season that one cannot evict his renter? The Gemara suggests because when a person rents a house during the rainy season, it is presumed that he rents it for the entire rainy season. The Gemara challenges this. But in the summer as well, the same halacha should apply, because when a person rents a house, he rents it for the entire summer. The Gemara offers a different explanation. Rather, in the rainy season, this is the reason. The reason for the season. Rather, in the rainy season, this is the reason. The reason they are raising the raisins. The reason they are raising the price of raisins is due to the rainy season. The reason that he cannot evict him what is the reason that they are raising the price of raisins? Simukim. Rather, in the rainy season, This is the reason that he cannot evict him. It is because at that time houses for renting are not found on the market. Since alternative housing is not available, even if he is renting the house month by month, one cannot evict him. The Gemara asks if that is the reason for the first clause of the Mishnah, say and try to explain accordingly the latter clause that states, and for a house located in the cities, both in the summer and in the rainy season, one must give 12 months' notice. It arises from this ruling that if the 12-month rental period would be completed during the rainy season, he could evict him then. But why is this acceptable, given that houses for renting are not found on the market at that time? Amar Rav Yehuda lehodia ketani. Given this difficulty, the Gemara offers a different interpretation of the Mishnah. Rav Yehuda said the Mishnah teaches about the requirement to give notice before eviction, and this is what it is saying. Although in general, in a case of one who rents a house to another without specification of when the rental period will end, both the landlord and the renter can end the rental whenever they so decide. The landlord cannot evict the renter during the rainy season, in other words, from the festival of Sukkot until Passover, unless he gives him notice of 30 days from the outset. In other words, before the rainy season begins, since it would still be summer, it would be possible for the renter to find alternate housing. But if a fixed rental period was agreed upon, the renter may be evicted upon its completion without prior notice. Tanya Nami Hachi. This is also taught in the Braita. When they said in the Mishnah 30 days, and when they said 12 months, they said it only with regard to the requirement to give notice before eviction. And just as a landlord needs to give notice to his renter before he evicts him, so too a renter needs to give notice to his landlord before he can terminate the rental. The Gemara explains why the renter must give notice, as the landlord can say to him, "Had you given me notice, I would have exerted myself to find and settle a respectable person in my house." Rav Asi says, if one day of the rental enters into the rainy season without notice being given, then the landlord cannot evict the renter from the festival of Sukkot until Passover. The Gemara challenges this, but didn't we say that he must be given 30 days notice? Rav Asi's ruling indicates that if notice was given even a day before Sukkot, that would be sufficient. The Gemara explains, this is what Rav Asi is saying. If one day of these 30 days of notice enters into the rainy season without notice being given, in other words, if notice was given fewer than 30 days before Sukkot, then the landlord cannot evict the renter from the festival of Sukkot until Passover. Rav Huna said, and if the landlord comes to increase the rental fee, he may increase it without prior notice. Rav Nachman said to him, one who does so is like this person who grabbed another by his shabum kolatroik demitskas, to put it nicely, his maracas. I did not see that one coming, I'm telling you. One who does this, basically raising the price, is one who grabbed another dude by his dudicles so that he would relinquish his cloak. In other words, he has not provided the person with a true choice. By increasing the rent, one is effectively provided the person would be a true choice. By increasing the rent, one is ineffective evicting him, and so he should have to give 30 days notice. The Gemara defends Rav Huna's opinion No, the ruling is necessary in the case where the rental of houses became more expensive, since the landlord would lose out by preserving the rent. It is acceptable for him to increase the rent without prior notice. What are those words in Aramaic? See, Amar Lev Nachman Hai Lenakte Vikuvse Dileshabke Liglime Naktil Vikuzbe. I didn't. Yeah. Okay, Pshita. If it is obvious that if the house in which the landlord lives fell down, then he can evict his renter from the house that he is renting to him without giving notice, as he can say to him, "You are no better than me." Since the landlord needs to find a new house to live in, he can demand that he should move into his rental property, and it should be his renter who must look for new housing. He cannot be expected to have given notice, as he could not have foreseen that his house would fall down. If you build your sayings on these rock, the house won't fall down. If you build on a shaky ground, it'll fall down. If a landlord sold the rental property to another, or bequeathed it to his heirs and gave it to another person as a gift, the renter can say to the new owner, "You are no better than the person from whom your ownership of the owner of the property came. Since he was required to give me notice before evicting me, so must you." If a landlord marries off his son and wishes to evict his current renter to provide a home for the newly married couple, then we see, if it was possible for him to have given notice, as the couple had already been engaged for some time, then he is required to give notice and cannot evict his renter otherwise. But if it was not possible to give timely notice, then he can say to his renter, "You are no better than me and my needs. I need the property now for my son, so it should be you who should go and find alternate housing." The Gemara relates, there was a certain man who purchased a boat laden with wine. He was unable to find a place to store it. He said to a certain woman, "Do you have a place to rent to me?" She said to him, "No." He was aware that she did own a suitable place, so he went and betrothed her. And then she gave him a lease on the place for him to bring in his wine there. So she said no, but then she'll marry him anyway. Okay, whatever. So he married her, and then she gave him a lease on the place for him to bring his wine there. He went back to his home and wrote a bill of divorce to her. He just married her to store his wine? That's crazy. He wrote a bill of divorce, which he then sent to her. Upon receiving the bill of divorce and realizing that the betrothal had been nothing more than a ruse, she went and hired porters, paying them from the wine itself, and instructed them to take the wine out of her place and put it on the road. Upon being presented with this case, Rav Huna, son of Yehoshua, said, paraphrasing Obadiah 1:15. Oh my goodness, I was just doing the Gematria of Elijah today, which is 97. I also had popcorn, which is 97 in English Gematria. But he paraphrased Obadiah 1:15, like he did, so shall be done to him. His repayment shall come back on his head. She was entitled to do as she did. The Gemara explains Rav Huna's ruling. It is not necessary to state that the woman is entitled to evict the man if the place she rented out to him was a courtyard that did not stand to be rented out, in which case she is not expected to rent it to anyone. Rather, even if it was a courtyard that stands to be rented out, she could say to him, "It is amenable for me to rent the place to everyone else, but it is not amenable to me to rent it to you, as you are to me like a preying lion. Since you deceived me, I do not wish to have any dealings with you." The Mishnah teaches, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel says, for a baker's shop or for a dyer's shop, one must give 3 years' notice. It was taught in a Braita in Tosefta 827. The need for this unusually long period of notice is due to the fact that the length of the credit extended by these businesses to their customers is extensive. They must be provided with enough time to collect their debts before being forced to relocate. Okay. Mishnah. The Mishnah said, if one rents out a house to another, the landlord bears the responsibility for providing the door. If one rents out a house to another, the landlord bears the responsibility for providing the door, for providing the bolt, for providing the lock, and for providing every item in the house that is essential for normal living and requires the work of a craftsman to provide it. But with regard to an item that does not require the work of a craftsman, the renter is responsible to make it. The manure found in the courtyard of a rented house is the property of the landlord, and the renter has rights only to the ashes that come out of the oven and the stove, which can be used as a fertilizer. Gemara, the Gemara says, Tana Rabbanan, the rabbis taught in a Braita, if one rents out a house to another, the landlord bears the responsibility to install doors for it, to open windows in its walls, to provide light for it, to strengthen its ceiling, and to support its cross beam. And the renter bears the responsibility to make a ladder for it, to provide access to the roof, to erect a parapet for its roof. See Deuteronomy 22, verse 8. To construct a gutter for it, to carry away rain which falls on the roof, and to plaster its roof so that rain does not leak through it. The students in the study hall raised a dilemma before Rav Sheshet. Upon whom is the obligation to affix a mezuzah? See Deuteronomy 6:9. The Gemara expresses surprise at the question. Why did they ask about a mezuzah? Doesn't Rav Misharshia say affixing a mezuzah is the obligation of the resident? It is certainly the responsibility of the renter. The Gemara amends the dilemma. Rather, their dilemma was upon whom is the responsibility to prepare the place where the mezuzah will be affixed. For example, to bore a slit in a stone doorpost to insert the mezuzah there. Amar Lahu Risheshes. Risheshes said to them, you learn this in the Mishnah. With regard to an item that does not require the work of a craftsman, the renter is responsible to make it. And this task is also something that does not require the work of a craftsman, as it is possible. It's also a pretty long daf. Wow.